What's up, everybody? This is Tasteless and Gemini here. We are doing a match here between MaNa and Kiwian. MaNa, obviously the big champion, defeating Moon, as well as TLO at DreamHack Atlanta. Kiwian, if you are a StarCraft 2 fan from the old days, you may remember him as Top. Anyways, these two guys are going at it in one of the very first ever competitive matches to be recorded in Stormgate. I'm super excited to get into this game. Real quick here, please do like and subscribe. We're going to have a lot more great content like this. If you want to learn more about Stormgate and see more competitive matches, gameplay, guides, please do join this channel. There's going to be a lot of stuff for you here.
Yeah, and this is going to be a great game, like you were saying. MaNa and Kiwian, two very top players right now in Stormgate. MaNa is someone that, other than the DreamHack showcase there, we didn't really see too much of his games. But Kiwian, if you've been in the Stormgate closed alpha and beta, you've actually been seeing a decent amount of his games. He plays in a lot of the little tournaments that happen in there. He streams some of his games in the Discord as well. So Kiwian is definitely a guy that's been playing a lot. He's the big grinder of Stormgate.
He's been very active since the very start, always been good. You know, obviously someone who was very skilled and successful in StarCraft 2. It's not too much of a shocker that he's doing well now. MaNa is a legendary player from Poland. He was playing all the way back to the StarCraft 1 days. He's been playing RTS his whole life. In some ways, he is kind of the reigning champ. He's been in the spotlight here after defeating Moon at DreamHack. I'm curious to see how long he could stay dominant. Who knows? He may just actually be the best of the very best here. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to see what ideas MaNa's going to have. Last time, he was very good at control play, basically not allowing his opponents to get enough of the map. In kind of a classic RTS macro game, exhibited a lot of those features. By the way, in this game, we're immediately having a surround over here on this Brute. It seems like in Stormgate, pretty tough to get a 4-unit surround, but you can really box them off and inhibit movement. But as that Brute gets close enough to home, he does back off.
Yeah, this is a very fast dog play coming out of Kiwian here. It's a pretty common strategy to be able to get across and get some good access onto the map because the brutes from Infernal do come out pretty quickly, and they're pretty beefy. They don't move very fast, but they take a lot of damage. They deal a lot of damage as well, so they usually have a lot of map control early on in the game. So going for a lot of dogs at the beginning, these scouts, we call them dogs, everybody
players. Calls them dogs when you're playing
we call
the game.
them dogs. Some of the other units, we call them cars.
Yeah.
We're very
Hedgehogs
simplistic.
we call cars. Yeah,
we try to come up with the easiest
We're an
names
unsophisticated group.
Yeah, so the early dog play is coming out here from Kiwian to get a lot of map control, which is usually not something that you see from the Vanguard. So they're getting a lot of the early camps there for extra resources and whatnot. He's actually even got a sneaky little bob going on the left side to kill some of the trees. This is actually kind of cool. I like this.
A little bit of bobbery going on here. So the bob is like a peasant or an SCV with, I believe in this build, 7 hits on a tree, and you could tear the tree down.
Yep.
And so he is going to try to carve in, I believe, a point for the dogs to spill in. Now that's inbound, but more importantly, we have a big attack over here on the later expand right now for Kiwian.
Yeah, now this is going to get pretty crazy because Kiwian's not actually backing up. He's going full in with the dogs as well to get right into the other opponent's mineral line at the same time. This is extremely dangerous here because the dogs will be able to kill some of these imps pretty quickly here. Luckily, though, the couple brutes do spawn here. The cooldown for them just finished off, so they will be able to help defend against this. And in the meantime, the natural from Kiwian did get forced to cancel, and the rest of MaNa's units are coming right back home.
Yeah, no Fellhogs here to try to help out. Normally, that's a standard defense you have there, so the dogs can't do that much. I think they're actually over at the expansion, but you can see the idea that Kiwian had there was actually pretty sick. He carved his way through there. It was very fortunate that the 2 brutes spawned when they did. I think there would have been a lot more worker kills, but already there's been so many workers that have been wiped here, and the dogs are much more nimble units than the brutes. We haven't seen the activation of the fiends yet. The dogs are going to come out the way they came in. Never mind. They're going to just come right back over here, and again, without any kind of like aided defense with those Fellhounds, he could end up killing even more imps. And again, already a lot of lost mining time here, even having to have the imps go from the main to the natural.
Yeah, the good thing here, though, for MaNa is that he does still have a natural up and running, whereas Kiwian still doesn't have his finish. I think he's even been forced to pull down a couple extra bobs to get the overpowered building time onto it as well. Nice little block there, by the way, with the barrow there to be able, or the meat farm to be able to actually deny the the dogs from escaping in the way that they came. So we'll be able to eventually finally kill all those off. And actually, even a third base was taken during all this as well. So actually, this might be totally fine for MaNa coming into this mid game.
Yeah, whenever you do anything, I don't know if this is true for Stormgate, but generally with the RTSs, maybe the exception is Warcraft 3. If you ever do any kind of attack that's big before you have a first base, it's really hard if that next base that you're going to make is late. You just are very behind and trying to play keep up. So Kiwian gets that base up, but with a third shrine for MaNa down at 6 o'clock, I do feel like MaNa can probably steadily recover from here, despite how cool the strategy and tactics we saw there from Kiwian earlier.
Yeah, and it looks like the Fiends will finally get picked off here. A couple of Exos finally coming out for Kiwian, so that will allow that to get killed off. And even though the natural was very late for Kiwian, like I was saying, you can put multiple bobs on a building to speed up the production of it. So I believe he pulled a lot of those to get that to get the command center down as quickly as possible, basically. So it does recover some lost time that you have, even if you can't get it up quickly enough. Maybe you get it denied or something like that. So that's a nice little mechanic as well for the Vanguard.
So the scout or the dog has an ability to see up onto high ground that can be activated. So he can basically cycle through each dog and use these exos to pick at the imps that are mining right now. I don't know whether or not Kiwian is aware of the third base. He may think this is 2 base versus 2 base, which would lead him to believe that he's ahead. But in fact, even having this position for a little while, it's possible that MaNa can just overpower him.
Yeah, and now here comes MaNa trying to break this position before it gets up, because if that turret finishes, you can put an Exo inside of it, and it will deal a lot of extra splash damage. So he wants to take advantage of it before it finishes. It will finally finish, and it will give a lot of extra DPS onto this little engagement here. But I think MaNa might have just been able to get on top of it just early enough, but a couple reinforcements now coming from Kiwian.
Oh,
will be able to keep it here. This is going to be very close. Will finally kill it off, even with the repair coming down here. Now the extra Fiends will be able to split up and get on top of some of these extra units. But nice micro coming out from Kiwian. Actually keeps that one Exo alive. That was incredible.
That was pretty sick. Unfortunately, I think the wind has been taken out of the sails of this attack. He's going to be able to just maybe skirt around the outside of this base. It is still a pretty healthy developing 3 bases. MaNa kind of feeling like one of these Zerg players that just keeps growing and keeps gobbling up all the resources on the map. This is making it very tough for me to see Kiwian both get a third base and have any kind of presence or opportunities that can be made. In this game, to be frank, I think he's playing a little bit of catch-up. As I say that, he has started a third. I see a bunch of Bobs over there as well. That's up at 12 o'clock. So the mirrored expansion position for the third base here of MaNa.
The thing to note about that third location as well, though, is that there is no extra, there's no extra Therium, so it's actually, it kind of limits how much you can actually produce a little bit because you don't get that extra income from that. But actually, a little engagement here in the watchtower, trying to deny vision and trying to get what they can here. Split up the brutes to get on top of some of these. Actually, just run away, it looks like, as MaNa will forfeit this over to Kiwian here. So a nice little vision buff here for Kiwian.
It does seem like if the brutes do get, they're starting to lose the fight, they're like the slower unit. They're never going to get away. It does feel like you're forced to spawn or fracture them into fiends to try to get out. And then I guess you just try to see what you can get done with them later on. Keep in mind with the white health that you see on the fiends, they don't regen it, they just sustain it. And they lose that permanently the further they're off. Whereas if for every other Infernal unit, if you're on Shroud, you do regen white health. Think of it a little bit like a shield, only not as pronounced. A little bit weaker.
Yeah, and it does, well, you do have like kind of direct implication of how you actually regen it as well, because then as long as you just come right back onto the Shroud, it will regenerate, whereas in StarCraft 1 and 2, with the Protoss Shield, it's just whenever the damage stops happening and it will just naturally come back. So you can kind of tell exactly when it will actually be regenning or not if you come back onto the Shroud there.
All right, we see some attacks over here on the plug at the wall. They do kill it off. This is a little bit more of a harass here from Kiwian. This is actually turning out to be a pretty interesting game, by the way. A little bit of a hit and run. There's another base being taken all the way in the bottom right in the kind of, I guess, more of the dirt part of the map, their sandy part of the map. I don't know that Kiwian is aware of that as well. Kiwian, again, just to put this out here for everybody, we don't really know what faction is supposed to be ahead in expansions. As an example, in StarCraft, we kind of expect Zerg to be up a couple bases. and that's fine. It seems like in this matchup, Infernal grow a little bit faster, but I could be wrong. And again, this is the first iteration that we're able to cast, so there may be other iterations to come. But as far as I can tell, I just want to point out, in this game, MaNa is staying ahead in bases. How much of a dilemma is that for Kiwian? I think we got to unpack the game a little bit more to truly understand.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot on Kiwian as well to start to get the extra tech up going here. We already start to have the med techs coming here to help heal some of these bio units, so that's a very important unit to try and get into the later stages of the game. And it looks like Kiwian's actually kind of missing this giant army from MaNa that's going right across the map here. Maybe MaNa getting wind of it with I think maybe actually this Kiwian's watchtower that he's got, so we will actually be able to see the units chasing him now. But it seems like MaNa caught wind of this somehow, and will be trying to go across and kill this big army here from Kiwian, as actually it looks like he's going around himself, so he's going to use the Magmadon actually to clear off these trees, get right into the natural to do a surprise attack, which didn't really surprise too much because Kiwian wasn't even on the side of the map to begin with, so it doesn't really matter. But regardless, they're both inside their bases, and MaNa's going to have a lot of stuff to do here because he's going to have that global infest on top of these units. Huge stuns coming out from the Magmadons as well to get on top of those to start to get some of those fiends spawning. And now it's going to be Kiwian to try and come and see what kind of damage he can do on the other side of the map.
He does fracture all of those brutes into fiends, so the damage is really starting to pile up. These bobs are not going to stand a chance over here. The Magmadon's now coming up here towards the third. We still have the Vanguard army in the south. The problem is that this is more important real estate on the map. Just now, we see them begin to push in, but there's so many fiends coming out here, and it looks like we're going to see Kiwian lose both fights at once. This is going to be GG here, as MaNa is going to take game one.
Yeah, he's just completely ransacking this main base right now. This is a total two ships in the night scenario where both players not even aware that each other was attacking them. And it looks like MaNa's really going to be able to snowball this super hard as the infest does start to come down. I guess the overcharged bobs will, defend their own for a little bit here, and now some of the extra units are coming. So this little army might not find its end here in this game, but eventually I think MaNa should be able to find his way across with the rest of his stuff. Huge stun there! Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, I guess there is going to be a moment here for Kiwian to recover, but I mean, where is he going to go from here? He's not really mining from anywhere except for a few bobs in the very top left part of the map. Now, MaNa took a beating here as well. At the same time, though, it just seems like recovery is a much more realistic thing here for MaNa. He also I guess he did give up a lot of brutes in defending his attack, so maybe rebuilding his army is going to be a bit of a challenge. But I'm very impressed. I thought that game was going to end there.
Yeah, that is very good for Kiwian. I didn't realize he actually even kept the third base alive as well. So he does have the third and fourth, even though he lost his natural and some of the stuff in his main base. He still actually does have a somewhat decent economy, all things considered. So this is still something that MaNa has to jump on top of, and will do that. Luckily for him, there's a totally unguarded turret there, so that one doesn't do too much damage. That's just the base one. You do need to put a specific unit inside of it to get a certain buff. So like we were saying before, the Exo going inside is the one that deals the most damage. So with nothing inside of it, doesn't really defend all that much there against a whole huge army. So that will be a base taken down, and that is what MaNa needs to make sure that he cements himself as the winner of this game, because if he didn't realize I was there and didn't take advantage, he could have easily gotten overwhelmed thinking that Kiwian was still just sitting on one or two bases.
Right. This is really MaNa roaming and clearing up any stray buildings he can here. We're seeing right now Kiwian in pursuit. He does have a Vulcan here in the back. You could see the Magmadon a little bit slow. Is he going to actually turn around? He is. He's going to go for a dive. He can chain these together. It looks like he whiffs the second dive from the Magmadon, but then he's going to spawn these fiends, and they're going to get great surface area. Man, these Vulcan just gets completely run over, and MaNa going to go for the jugular once more.
Oh my god, even coming from below the cliff, going on top of everything. That was a sick little flank right there. That was awesome by MaNa right now. Getting the infest on top of absolutely everything. So now the snowballing for the fiends will be coming down, and huge stuns yet again. The stuns are pretty short, but it still does a decent amount to help get the gaunts on top of the actual units there.
There it is. GG. Kiwian taps out in game one. I got to say, MaNa looking very impressive here. Kind of a reminder of why he was able to dominate and win so well at DreamHack Atlanta. But I also want to praise Kiwian for having some very cool strategies back there. Able to really get creative by using the Bob to open up the trees. The fact that there was no Fell Hogs to defend at that at the main base. It was an interesting moment there. Unfortunately, MaNa kind of too good at growth, too good at that macro play.
Yeah, I like to see the creativity out of Kiwi, and I liked how that worked out for him there. But unfortunately, MaNa just seems too good right now. Overall, the DreamHack champion, of course.
We're going to go now into Game 2. This is going to be on Jagged Maw. So this is a map where you are pretty far apart from each other. You're both spawning on the right side of the map, but you could almost think of this map as a horseshoe on its side. And there are siege camps that can be killed. So these are like creeps that you take out. But when you kill the creeps, you can spawn a catapult that will auto attack into your opponent's pathway to its main, whatever it encounters, units or buildings.
Yeah, there's been some really interesting strategies that come around utilizing the cannon, the siege camps to great effectiveness. I specifically remember there was a player that you all probably are quite familiar with if you're an OG. Noni came up with a totally busted double cannon or double siege turret like rush where he would use, as Infernal, he would use Shroud Stones to kill off the camps along with some Fiends and then get both of them out really quickly and then just rush across the map with both the siege turrets. And it was really hard to defend. I did not enjoy playing against that, but it was very interesting nonetheless to watch. So I'm curious if maybe we'll get some of those types of scenarios here. But for now, it just looks like it's going to be some normal macro play for both players.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick expand here for MaNa. And for the time being, it's once again going to be, I mean, not that you can't expand soon here, but it appears it's going to be a little bit more aggro here from Kiwian.
Yeah, and it looks like he just likes to go for those early scout builds. Anytime that I would play against him, even as Infernal or Vanguard both, he always loved to go for lots of early scouts, just loves getting that map vision. He loves being aggressive. Even in the way he played StarCraft 2, he was always kind of just an aggressive player. So definitely his style for sure. MaNa coming in with a couple Fiends to be able to scout around to see exactly if there's an early expansion or not. We'll be able to see that early scout production, and even the Biokinetics lab coming in at the same time. So some extra tech on one base coming here for Kiwi, and we'll see what he wants to do with that.
And so whenever you're in a position like this as Infernal and you see that the Vanguard is on one base tech, you know you have to be ready for whatever exactly is going to be thrown at you, because you're going to be attacked soon. Otherwise, you'd just be ahead if you just took bases and nothing happened.
Yeah, and one of the things that you can go for as Infernals is the early Conclave to help get some of those Gaunts out as quick as possible, because they are very good. That infest damage, once you can eventually get the upgrade for them as well, which does come a little bit later, is very powerful. But just having the extra DPS from range as well is just very strong to have in back of the Brutes at the front.
So we see the dogs coming down now. Confirmation that the third base, hasn't been taken. Important to note, right? We saw that MaNa was very good at getting the third base right away. There's a second wave of dogs headed southbound over here on the eastern side of the map.
Yeah, I'm curious if he got the upgrade for the Scout as well, which gives them extra speed and damage. If he's planning on massing all of those.
I think he probably did.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's what it's going to be, because we haven't quite... Oh, this extra...
Sorry,
that's what
Bobs.
I was wondering. I was curious if it was going to be the Bobs or extra dogs, because it looked like a lot of units came out. So he's going to start putting some turrets up here and then try to get the Exo in the turrets while the dogs help to distract on the low ground. This is a dirty little opening that, coming out of Kiwian, could do a lot of damage if it does not get dealt with properly. Even getting some Fiends... Actually, MaNa getting some Fiends into the main base here. So this is going to strain Kiwian's defense here, and one of those Exos is going to get caught as it's trying to go across the map, forced to use the overcharge and pull the Bobs to defend against this. So it's going to limit his income here for this rush.
So, you know, when you see an Exo leaving the base alone, you got to assume there's going to be some kind of Exo tower rush. And now MaNa sees it. He's going to be making meat farms right by this. He's also targeting this down. Dude, I don't know if this game can go on for much longer if this rush doesn't work, but the Bobs are going to repair. The Brutes are coming forward. He hasn't split them into Fiends just yet. Is he going to go for that extra damage? No, he's not. He's going to turn around and instead try to take some of these dogs out on the outside.
Yeah, we're trying to get use of these meat farms to get the Fellhound spawn to be able to actually defend against this. But once they get cleared off initially, they're not going to do too much against this huge turret here. And the Bob repair continues to be so good. We're not getting any damage onto this turret. So Kiwian coming in here strong with a pretty good attack. The problem here, though, is that he's kind of situated in just this one location. And so if he doesn't get enough Exos across the map to be able to fill more turrets and slowly get further across into the natural, there's not much room for him to go here. And so eventually, MaNa should finally defend all of this. And I like the way he's got his units on the left side to be able to deny any reinforcements as well. Getting in between them is very important because if you can, like I said, just isolate this push to this one location, it's not actually going to be able to get a kill.
So he is. I don't believe this tower. I think if he makes one over to the right, he can hit the workers mining. But if you're on 2 bases and still mining, even if you're being tower rush, it's not as much of a dilemma. He does still have 4 bobs, so here, this is the most important tower in the game. Now, I don't know what the damage output is. Okay, he actually can keep it alive. Oh, my God, Gemini. I thought for a second the defending tower was going to be able to beat the offending tower, but here we go. And instead, MaNa's going to come in here for a dive.
We'll be able to deny that one extra turret. So again, that is one of the most important turrets here because if it starts to get more damage onto the actual imps working, then it's going to really limit what MaNa can do here. But now we get a Fiend split trying to surround this, and the extra DPS not having any repair as well is going to be able to target that down pretty quickly. Won't be able to get the second one from here because eventually those will be able to get killed off. But getting that one extra turret is going to really allow MaNa to continue to defend and get more units out. Just gives him more time and less pressure off his back here.
Yeah, more shots going to be rained down here. It does appear like this meat farm is making it like a bit of an obstacle here for these brutes to get around and get over there. The tower's done. I don't believe there's an exo that's inhabiting it, so it's nowhere near as good. And he's still going to try to take it out with the damage. God, it's so low. I guess it's barely being repaired by this Bob.
Finally able to kill it. Thankfully for MaNa, that does get killed. He actually had a Bob inside of it that was actually repairing the other turret as well. So that was happening there, but unfortunately there's nothing to repair except for the Bobs, the actual turret itself, so it does get killed off. More Shroud Stones and meat farms getting placed further forward to be able to continually deny this push here for MaNa. Should be able to get on top of everything once a couple more Fiends get situated, but you can see just how strong this Flak Cannon is with his Exo inside of it. Just deals so much splash damage, and so unless there's actually a huge amount to get us around, it does take a while to actually kill off.
Yeah, I mean, the damage is insane. It does seem like we're having enough Fellhogs come out that it's almost like what is it? What does a plane shoot out to stop a missile from hitting it? Like a fire? It's like chaff, a flare or whatever. Yeah, like it's drawing the shots away. But it looks like now we're going to see Kiwian manually target down some of these farms. No doubt, even if all these farms are wiped, I'm sure the supply will still be fine here for MaNa. Keep in mind that the farm can both give you supply for the Infernals, but also act as a defense.
Yeah, and also every single Fellhog that does spawn gives you 1 extra supply as well. So if those get killed off, you actually do lose maximum supply, which is not the most impactful thing overall, but it's still something to think about. There's actually a couple Exos that somehow stay alive and got all the way across, so they're actually kind of destroying the imp line right now, forcing MaNa to move those away. Kiwian is also double expanding behind this, by the way, so we're got a lot of economy on the upswing here for Kiwian on the backside here. More Fiends getting split up here to try and get on top of these turrets, and this one main Flak Cannon still will not die. We've got more Bobs repairing it still.
This is insane. The only complaint I have about Stormgate right now is that this cannon doesn't have a kill count. This cannon needs a kill count. How many things has this murdered so far in this game? By the way, all the meat farms, are going to fall. And now, yeah, with that 1 Exo, it's just above the game timer at the bottom of the screen here. That's now denying mining. And so now we're going to have MaNa on 1 base. He is getting compressed to a really scary point. Normally, when you see like a tower rush of any sort or cannon rush, whatever you want to call it, depending on the game, if it doesn't do damage and end it right away, it's probably losing. Not in this game.
No, not when you can power build your command posts to then make it so that way they spawn extremely quickly, even though you're on a big deficit in economy. And so now we've got 3 base Kiwian, still with a turret rush up in his opponent's natural, forcing MaNa to now continually defend against this. And now getting on top of the Flak Cannon, the original one that was dealing so much damage, will finally, kill it off.
No, it's going to live forever. No!
Oh, no! Finally gets it.
That Exo is a serial killer. It's killed like hundreds and hundreds of units. It's still alive. Is it going to stay alive?
Oh, the Fiend trying to get on top of it does kill it off. Oh, thank goodness on MaNa's side. This finally gets. Look at that
Jim Raynor of this multiple.
Look at this turret doing 360s.
That was crazy.
360 no-scope those Fiends.
Yeah, no-scoped him down. That was wild. So, I mean, the bulk of the damage is done. This is still a nuisance. It's still a thorn in the paw of MaNa in this game, but at least he can mine freely. The problem is there's double the income, assuming that all the other resource locations are maxed out here for Kiwian. So I would imagine Kiwian, it's going to be a pretty easy layup. In fact, he's just going to try to build off of the lost position that he had here and just make cannons once more.
Yeah, he just never ends this little siege. I mean, they're still up, so why not try to send a few more down? We do have a Magmadon finally out here for MaNa, so that's going to help possibly get a stun off onto these units. Barely gets it, only getting one Exo. Not the best stun there, not the best charge for the Magmadon. Will have to run back away before it dies. I mean, that's getting extremely low there. He could eat a couple of those Fel Hogs to get some more of the white health back, which is one of their extra little abilities, so we'll be able to replenish that at least, but the main hull damage will be pretty low here. And this situation is still not cleared up for MaNa. Now even getting a Hedgehog in the mix as well is going to be very good to help deal with a lot of these units. Very microable unit to really get a lot of value here. And they're actually, once you get a couple of them, extremely good against buildings. You can just burst down those Shroud Stones super fast if you get a lot of them.
And so MaNa's going to abandon this. I don't know what exactly is there to defend at home. Sometimes you have these moments, and yes, the Magmadon can knock down the rocks, guys. The rocks are like the trees for this map. Sometimes you'll see like a really aggressive cannon rush and realize there's really not that much back at home. So let's see what this attack can do. If there's, even with a small army, if he can come in here and do any kind of damage, maybe he'll get something done. But clearly, MaNa pokes in and says, no way. I cannot do this, and decides to back out.
Yeah, that one turret is still very threatening back at the natural, and if they do the overcharge Bob as well, it can be very, it looks like it could be very good for you, but then all of a sudden it swings pretty poorly. So MaNa doesn't want to overcommit, brings everything back, just really wants to actually destroy this position for once, because he hasn't actually gotten rid of this yet. It's still here from the beginning of the game. Like that, it's not like he's ever been able to take this down. Nice stun from the low ground with that double Magmadon right there, but there's no more units to actually reinforce him because he's actually kind of walled himself out with these extra Shroud Stones and meat farms here, so we can't get the reinforcing units to help the Magmadons there, despite the really good stun. And now Kiwian's able to start to kill these off as well with 4 turrets set up here. This is getting extremely oppressive.
Yeah, the placement was not ideal there. And we have a third being taken. I don't think we've shown it yet. It's north of the position we have. It is undefended. It is a naked expansion. And were there anything to be headed to the south, which keep in mind, MaNa opened up the middle of the map now, so it's no longer a horseshoe-shaped travel distance to get over there. You can make a beeline from north to south. Pretty long and dramatic game, by the way.
Yeah. I almost wonder what would have happened if MaNa just kind of, after he denied the forward push of this turret situation earlier, if he had just gone for that north third base a little bit sooner, of what that would have done. Finally, we have a little bit of surround now, getting a huge Fiend split, getting on top of everything, trying to bust it all down. The splash damage from the turrets is going to be pretty good, but this many Fiends and finally a surround, which was maybe the big key part that MaNa was missing, will finally be able to push this away. But Kiwian knows about this third base. He had a scanner dog go across the map and actually see it on the way over, so he does know it's there, is pushing forward towards it. Luckily, MaNa is able to respond in time. We'll be able to deny it for now, so that third base will not get taken out here.
Meow. Scanner dog, still a placeholder, guys.
I love that thing so much.
Yeah.
Look, you see it right there just sitting on top of the base as well. It doesn't actually, it takes a long time to die, so yeah. Oh, huge stun. Very nicely done by MaNa here, but unfortunately there's not enough reinforcing units.
Magmadon's charging in alone and getting killed off immediately is peak Stormgate for me, Gemini. That's when I go, this is the game of the future. Yeah, hemorrhage that Magmadon back there. And now we're seeing Kiwian just come and collapse onto this position. Beautifully done. Wiping out the remaining imps. They're going to be killed just underneath the crevice of the cliff. And look, I mean, this can't go on forever. 2 bases, barely, off of the 4. And actually, I correct myself, 5 now, as Kiwian's taking another base here at the very top left corner. You can see the little blue blip up there now. Kiwian has mustered such a strong army. I do not know if there's a world in which we could see MaNa survive this attack.
Yeah, the only thing he could be hoping for right now is for a Fiend snowball with the infestability, but it does wear off before enough of those low-health Lancers can get killed off. And now we even got a couple med techs helping to heal up these Lancers, and there is just nothing to actually kill them. The Magmadon's getting killed off. and there's almost nothing here. The cooldowns for the macro cycle is not quite enough, and that is going to be a GG for Kiwian taking a game.
GG. That was a special game. I love seeing the cannon rush. Anybody who's played any RTS knows there's always going to be some strategy like that. But normally you don't see such a protracted, drawn-out rush like that. I know we've had some long cannon rushes in StarCraft 2, and especially in Warcraft 3, human tower rushes can be like extremely. If anything, that was it reminded me a lot of a human tower rush. Yeah, extremely long and drawn out. But at the end of the day, it was really the fact that Kiwian was able to expand after all that and stay ahead, and less about the cannon rush itself winning the game.
Yeah, I wonder if, again, I'm curious what would have happened if MaNa maybe tried to expand a little bit earlier, knowing that the actual turret push wasn't going to initially harm his income there. Again, it's still hard because then you have to deny it from actually getting on top of your income in the first place, but there was that open area for him to take that triangle third base much earlier without clearing out the rocks. So I wonder also if he didn't even clear the rocks, if he tried to just not go for that counterattack and allowed it so that way the third base could just stay up, because otherwise it would be much more difficult for Kiwian to actually get around to it. So, yeah, I'm just curious what would have happened, but otherwise, very good play out of Kiwian.
We're going to go into Game 3 now, and, it's tied up 1-1. Kiwian, he does win Game 2 with that turret rush. You always have to ask yourself, especially when you're having two players play against each other over and over, can a sneaky strategy like that work again? Or have you basically played that card and now you have to find something else in your hand?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple different openers you can go for as Vanguard to find some sneaky builds, sneaky wins, I should say. There's been a lot of one-base hedgehog rushes as well, which are pretty cool, which gets a lot of micro ability out very early, and it's a bit difficult for Infernal to defend against it sometimes. So maybe we'll see something like that, but we'll kind of wait and see for this one. This is Secluded Grove as the map here, as Kiwian is sending out his first scout to try and find these things we like to call globules, which are little things on the map that you can pick up, which give you just a little bit of extra resources here and there if you can find them. They spawn they have a couple fixed places they spawn on the map, but if you go and search them out, there we go, we find one right there, so that's going to be an extra 10 Therium right there. So if you can find them earlier on, then it's a nice little advantage that you can get as Vanguard.
Yeah, again, a lot of different ideas on each of these maps, and I think this is just the beginning here for Stormgate on what is possible to have. We do have Kiwian taking a base. I'm sorry, MaNa here taking a base in the top right. Kiwian still scouting around. Kiwian did not go for a fast expand in that last game, so I'm curious what he's going to go for here. If he were to turret rush again, it really depends on the geography of the map, especially around that natural expansion, unless there's some way you can hit the main or some way you can cut down trees and try to get into a good spot. I don't feel like this map offers that many.
Yeah, there's not too many of those little scenarios just because the trees are most influential around the third base and this middle base right here. The only way to get into that middle base is by cutting down trees. So in the 1 to 2 base situation, there's not too much to get done with there, but it is worth noting that Kiwian is staying on one base. He is mining some of that extra Therium as well to allow him to get some extra tech here. And so we're going to be seeing if he's going to go for one of those early dog and turret pushes, or if he's going with what I was going to say with an early hedgehog build. It looks like he is, as the first hedgehog is already out. So that's going to allow him to get some extra map pressure here. We'll be able to chase away this initial brute, going to be forced it into fiends, which at that point, you can just kind of ignore them as the hedgehog player and just run right across the map and hopefully get some more counter pressure.
Yeah. A little bit of a slow start here. We just have the hedgehog doing as much kiting as possible. We've seen hedgehogs, and from a lot of the top players I've talked to, these are kind of a great default unit because you can kite so much with them. The hedgehog is just faster than the other units from Infernals. And so you kind of keep the Infernals stuck on, their own turf here. They can stay on their shroud. If they get too far out, it becomes hard to chase them. There is a cap on the bullets. I think it's 6 for the hedgehog. Is that correct?
I think it's 3 or 4.
3 or 4? Okay.
Yeah,
it looks like it's about 3 or 4. So they reload over time. So basically you have just enough time to shoot and micro it, and then you can go back and macro, do whatever. So I think in the first build it was almost Was it more than that? I feel like
I
there
think
was.
I think the amount was the same. It's just they changed how the unit actually moved. Like some of they have
Okay.
this kind of like drift mechanic
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
now where they
sliding a
kind of
little bit
slide
more.
around. Before it wasn't like that. But for now they're just still really strong. The thing is that they are the fastest unit along with Fiends. So if you don't have Fiends that are getting a nice surround around them, you can't actually catch up to them. So they're extremely fast and extremely lethal in that. And it looks like MaNa's just going to go ahead and send these units right across the map, the initial Fiends. This is one of the benefits here as Infernals, that you can kind of just go around the Hedgehogs on the map and get back into the mineral lines, because there's nothing back at home. You're sending all of your Hedgehogs out across the map, so you have nothing back to defend if they don't notice that you're doing this. And he's actually trying to get on top of the actual mech bay here. Doesn't quite get it, but we'll try to go for a surround. Not too much happening here. All this is going to do is delay the attack here from the Hedgehogs and force them back at home.
Yeah, that was, I think, a pretty smart set of decisions there from MaNa when he comes in. He basically prompts the Bobs to get the boost to defend, and then he goes for any structures he can. So he's just disengaging from them. If the Bob defensive mechanism wears off, then he'll attack it and kill them. But trying to pull the Bobs off of mining without taking extra damage on the Fiends himself. Meanwhile, that allows MaNa to open up a little bit more on the map. He's able to roam a bit more freely here. But, of course, you could see, as the Hedgehogs come back, what exactly are the Brutes supposed to do? Yes, the Fiends are faster, but the Fiends are a very temporary unit in this game, whereas the Hedgehogs are permanent.
Yeah, he's once again trying to go for the backstab to force the Hedgehogs back so that way he can hopefully get this third base set up, but one of the dogs from the early game is still there and actually denies the imp a little bit. So Kiwian's still on top of everything, making sure MaNa can't do exactly what he wants to. Will finally get that third base set up here. If he can get that set up with a couple of Shroud Stones and meat farms on the high ground, it will allow the Hedgehogs to, it will disallow the Hedgehogs from actually doing any more extra damage. So that's the goal that MaNa is trying to go for right now, to really secure that long high ground position for those two bases.
MaNa is staying back. Keep in mind, he has almost no map vision right now. I mean, he really isn't clear on what's happening. I think this has been Kiwian playing, in Game 2, very aggressive. In Game 1, maybe a little bit defensive and tactical. But in this game, I think he's very much keeping up with development. I feel like we're really entering our first true macro game with both of these guys.
Yeah, I do just kind of like the way that MaNa is playing this. I love the constant backstabs, because the Hedgehog pressure can get really oppressive really quickly if you don't actually force them to do anything other than just micro at your front. And so this is a really good way to go about it, just constantly sending those backstabs. Now getting into the Conclaves as well and the Shadow Cleft. The Shadow Cleft is the upgrade building for the Infernal, so it'll allow him to get the Infest ability for the Gaunts, which do come out of those Conclaves. So that's the next step for the Infernals here as MaNa. And he's going to try to get the overall army composition of the Brutes, the Gaunts, and the Magmadons to try and go for some big mid-game push, most likely, to stifle Kiwian's growth before he can get a really big, huge army.
Kiwian still roaming with the 6 Hedgehogs. He's just outside of the 2 possible exits, that are the most direct to his opponent's side of the map here. We're going to be on camera. Keep this on camera for a while. I was going to say, what else is happening here? All right, we're going to go somewhere else. And this is going to be another good spot to expand to. That little thing that was killed there, that is like a cover, almost like a manhole cover for the Theorem. So you can break that open and then mine the Theorem over there. I do like these little features on the map that kind of force players to engage with not just workers, but other units to get access to positions. Now these Hedgehogs are going to come up here. They're going to start to shoot these imps. And, the defenses here are okay from one angle, but you can see if they come in from the side, there's not much happening that they can do. Meanwhile, these Brutes are going to come down here, and they're going to hit over at this base really hard. The Bobs are going to be used to try to defend and come up here, but I don't feel like there is anywhere near enough, even with buffed Bobs, to take on this many Brutes.
The thing is, though, is that the Hedgehogs are still back at home, and this is the majority of MaNa's army, so if he doesn't actually do anything with this army, those Hedgehogs are actually killing his third base for completely free. There's no units there to defend. It looks like he's got a couple of, those are imps, actually. I thought that was a big Fiend army.
Oh, he's going to flank. He's going to try to trap him in here, but it looks like they can go behind. No, they can't. Are they stuck?
I think they are.
Oh, just Blizzard map things. Yeah, they can be attacked and they can't fit through. That's so funny. It did look like they could slip from behind.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, the hell of just, wall-ins
Yeah.
and positions.
Doesn't know what goes where just yet,
so
unfortunately.
Funny. Not a bad idea to try to keep those in the back to at least defend them. So now we're seeing losses on both sides. As the Bob's boost diminishes, that means that the Brutes and the Fiends can now pounce on that base, and they're not done yet. They're going to keep coming in here. There is an is that an Exo turret with the blade?
That is a Lancer turret.
Lancer turret, thank you.
So it does a little bit of bounce damage. It bounces twice onto any units. It's not as powerful as the Exo one, but it's the best next best thing here, as there's no Exos out. The overcharge being forced yet again to be able to defend this position at all. And MaNa on the back end will just go ahead and retake his third base here, and he's doing a pretty good job of just containing Kiwian now on these two bases.
Yeah, he's just going to use these Fiends, which are going to eventually die out, to take out the depots over here at the entrance. Or are they habitats? Habitats, thank you. Over here at the entrance. We do have a Vulcan out here. I feel like every time we have a Vulcan in this game, it gets surrounded and killed immediately.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to happen again, which is a bit unfortunate, because once you do get a lot of those, the Vanguard army actually gets extremely, extremely powerful, because the splash damage just becomes absolutely insane. But the timings here for the Infernals are extremely strong to get the Vanguard completely off kilter before they can actually get that big mech army situated here. And now that the Fiends are starting to dry up, it's going to spell the end for this push, but there's still more that could be coming here. And now Kiwian is going to be really hard pressed now to try and get this third base set back up again, because if he doesn't, he's not actually going to have the economy set to be able to get an actual full-on mech army.
Yeah. Big losses. Big losses there for Kiwian. I feel like MaNa's recovering so nicely here. He looks so good with the gaunts at play here, too. I think he's going to have an even more potent attack inbound here. We do have the dog flying through the map here. I guess we're not going to catch it, but it is going to scout and confirm that the third base has been retaken. There's always the possibility you lose your third, but you try to double down on production. And instead, both sides have grown into this. But this inbound attack makes me worried here for Kiwian. He doesn't have the kind of defensive structures. With the Brutes here to cover for the Gaunts to do the damage, this is very, very scary from the Vanguard's position.
Yeah, I don't think there's even enough energy now on that command post for a Bob overcharge. No, there is not, so he's going to be forced to run away. So that's a big detriment here to not have that. There's the stun over onto the Vulcan, and now the big Fiend split to get on top of everything, trying to deny what is here, and getting the global infest on top of everything will be able to help snowball this with extra Fiends. But that repair on the Vulcan is massive, keeping that alive as long as possible. But some of the Bobs start to get killed off, and the Fiends now coming out, and that is going to be able to kill that off. And this is starting to look pretty good for MaNa.
Yeah, MaNa fracturing this position and closing in on the command post means that there's, once again, not going to be a third base here for Vanguard. And that, combined with the fact that MaNa is also getting a fourth base of his own, just at the center right, a little south of that, I guess, from there. It's going to be bad news here. A fully walled-off Lancer tower is going to make this an undesirable position to hit with melee units, but I think that the bigger picture right now is the fact that MaNa is too big to fail.
Yeah, he's got so much that he can throw at this point, even if he does try and attack into this, because he could technically stun that if he wants to with one of the Magmadons. But it looks like he just wants to kill the Habitat and then get it eventually the normal way, so that's totally fine. But regardless, he's got so much that he can do at this point. Even if he loses these units, it doesn't matter, because he's got a whole bunch more coming out from his main base right now. We'll still try to charge these Magmadons away so he doesn't lose them, since they are still valuable. You don't want to just sacrifice them willy-nilly, but regardless, like you're saying, the point is that, yes, MaNa has just so much at this point. Denying the third base twice now from Kiwian, it's going to completely limit the growth that he can do further on into this game.
Now, MaNa is going to send even more units down here. It looks like he's basically going to roam outside this position over here and wait for anything to try to come down. We've got Bobs moving out, and this is going to be the big attack. We've got Infest over here. Keep in mind, with the Infest, it will spawn more Fiends for every Infested unit that's killed. That could end up snowballing this fight. Some more Magmadon's going to dive in here and do a lot of damage. The Vulcan goes down, and it's just going to be Bobs remaining.
One more Vulcan does come out from the spawn, though, but initially just gets surrounded, not even actually attacking. It looks like, I think he just completely missed the attack move on that unit. So unfortunately, nothing getting done there, and that's the GG. MaNa taking another game.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed that series. A lot of really cool ideas from Kiwian, but at the end of the day, it's MaNa that seems to have everything you need to be a top-tier RTS player. He knows when to attack. He knows when to expand. He knows when to retreat. And at the end, he was just able to overpower him by having more bases.
Yeah, excellent play by him. I mean, he's the DreamHack champion, as we all know, so not surprised too much to see him come out as the victor here, but Kiwian also still someone very awesome to look forward to as for more games here in the future.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Go to tastelessthreads.com where you can get my merch, and we will see you in a future video. Have a good day.